Hello, my name's Greg Gardiner here at Gardiner Angus Ranch in southwest Kansas, at Ashland, Kansas. One of the things that we're trying to do in our operation is try to get more information to our customers, and one of the things we get a lot of questions about a lot of different things that we do on the ranch. And with the new technology that we have to come into people's homes with YouTube and these videos, one of the things that we're going to try and do is get more information out to people that are interested in knowing about it. One of the things that we're doing here is very important to us, and it starts from day one, and that's identifying our cattle. We must know who the cattle are that we're dealing with. We need to get them identified, and we need to get them identified as soon as they're born. To do that, what we do during our calving seasons, we will have multiple workers out, 3 or 4 of us at a time, throughout the ranch. And the cattle are divided up into pastures where we have the groups of cows that are knowing their breeding dates, how and when they're supposed to calve at that time period, so we can concentrate our efforts in those pastures. Each day we'll go out and try to find the calves that are born, and we will capture them, tie them down, tattoo them, and earmark them. We'll get a birth weight on them, and because of the earmark, once we've done that, we know that calf's processed, and we go on to the next. But having those cattle identified from birth is important for many reasons, not only in our business, but as they leave this ranch and go out in the world on their own, they're identified for life, and if it's done properly. One of the things that's so important to do that is to go through a set of steps and techniques that basically you only have one shot to make it right. And so if you do it right the first time, it's a lifelong identification. If you don't do it right, then it's frustrating for not only you later on, but the people on down the road. One of the things we'll show you here today is catching the calf, tattooing them. One of the things that I like to do each time I go through just a simple protocol. Every calf I work, once I get it tied down, obviously I need to know who the mother is, and in our breeding records that we carry with us, we'll know whether it's an ET calf or whether it's an AI calf, and know how to identify it accordingly with which number we'll give it. Once we do that, we'll get a birth weight on the calf, get that recorded in our records, and then we'll decide according to ET or AI breeding which number the calf will get. Once that number is identified, we'll write that down to its recent mother or its own natural mother. Then we'll go and load our tattoo gun, and we'll go and give the calf the tattoo. One of the things that you really need to be cognizant of when you give a tattoo, we give it in the top rib, which is the widest rib and the easiest one to access and see later on. But even though the rib in the ear sets in a V shape, you need to rotate your tattoo gun to where you can use the natural rib of the calf and get your numbers set in that V and be able to see that. And that's what kind of we call the sweet spot, and to be able to put that in there, it's there for life. Once you decide to make the tattoo, be really firm when you give it. One of the things that you struggle with at times, and it happens to everybody that's ever tattooed calves, about the time you think you're ready to squeeze your tattoo gun, calf moves his head, you start the squeezing process, and we create what we call a Shazam brand, but a tattoo. But those needles of the tattoo stencil drags through the ear of the calf, ripping that tissue up, and it ruins your ability to make a legible number. So be very firm and precise when you do it, and aggressive and tattoo it. And then as we flip them over, and we'll show you on a calf that we're going to work here in a little bit, on the other side the same thing. Another thing with using 4-digit numbers, try to get that into the ear as close as you can, and try to get out of the hairline that the last 1 or 2 digits will be. If you aren't precise in your placement, you'll have half of your numbers, of the 4 numbers, will be in the hairline, and you'll lose them for life because you can't see them as the ear gets darker, as the calf gets older, plus it's in the hair, and it's just lost. So one of the things that I do, whether I'm tattooing sometimes with a 2 or 3 number tattoo, I'll tattoo it first, and then I'll actually, when I flip the calf over, slide those numbers down to where they're as deep in the gun as they can and as close to the inner ear as I can to try and get out of that hairline. So those are some little things to do that might help you when you're tattooing. One of the other things I do after I tattoo the calf, have my paperwork done, I'll lay the ink in that ear the first time, and I'll just invert the back side of the ear with my offhand, and I'll rub that ink into those tattoo holes and try to get a good nice paste film cover on that. It'll continue to bleed, but that's a good thing, because that's allowing that ink to work in there. And once I do that on both sides, my protocol is I'll go and start packing up my equipment, let that continue to bleed out a little bit, and then I'll come back and give it one last rub before I leave. And by that time, it's starting to quit bleeding on its own. You leave that lasting film all across the tattoo number and work it into those holes, and it's kind of is just a paste and covering it as you're through with it. And then release the calf, and he's identified for life. And done properly, you know, the day that animal dies, whether it's 6 years or 16 years from the time that you give that tattoo, if it's done right, you should be able to see it that day and still read that tattoo. Today we're working on tattooing brand new calves and finding calves, and we've rolled up on one that's a few hours old, and what we're fixing to do right here is to catch this calf, and we'll give him his identification, his tattoo, his ear mark, and his birth weight, and get all that recorded in my records. But we'll see what we can do here and try to keep everybody safe while we're doing it. Now that we've got him captured, we'll start the process of how we do this approximately 2,300 times a year on all the calves that are worked on this ranch. But we'll get a birth weight, and we'll give him a tattoo and an ear mark so that we'll know that this calf's processed. All this right here when we wanted it to happen. This heifer calf was born today, and today she weighs 66 pounds. After I find one of these calves and get it tied down and weighed, we'll go to a record book that has the total calving herd inventory in it. This calf today, its recent mother is R130. Here she is. In today's records, now I know because of the identification of the recip cow, R130, she's bred with an ET calf, sired by Sunrise out of F324. And her due date was 3/10, but is a heifer calf born today, which is March 14th. Weighs 66 pounds. The calving unassisted, I'll write down the pasture that it was located in. Then I go to my day sheet, and I've already got a set of tattoos that I've got for me today, and we'll look up an unused number, and this heifer will be known from now on as F156. The F stands for female, and lets us know that it was born in the spring of the year, in the spring herd. And I will fill out all this information here and then take it back to the barn, load it up on the computer tonight. But not only with this day book, we'll write it down here, write it down in this main book, then we'll get it on the computer back at the office. Now I'm ready to load up my gun. You load your tattoo gun back in the backward order to where the numbers come out in the sequence that you want. One of the things that I always do, I just keep checking and checking and checking, because you only got one chance to make the right tattoo and make it last a lifetime, and don't make any mistakes with transposing numbers, switching order. But again, this is going to be F156. Now my gun's loaded with the F156 in sequential order. And I go through a different set of steps, trying to replicate it each time to do exactly what I want. And done properly, today this tattoo will last the lifetime of this animal. If this animal were to stay on this ranch and die at 18 years of age, I should be able to look in that heifer's ear 18 years from now and still see F156. When we tattoo these calves, we'll put this in this top open rib. One of the things we use for alignment is this bottom rib, to make sure we get it square and in that zone where we'll be able to read it and get this laid in there in the right angle. And one of the things you have is, especially on a 4-digit number, you have to get it in there as deep as you can to where you can get out of the hair zone and get the number in the area of the skin to where you can read the tattoo. And so we'll go ahead and tattoo this calf now and hopefully get this placement correct. Now one of the things, as we switch this calf over to do the right ear, I spin him over onto his back to where he's at a good angle for me to get this in for placement. I've got his leg captured here around my knee to slow down the struggle. But once again, you want to get this in as deep as you can, as square as you can. When you give the tattoo, give it very quickly and very firmly. And now, the last portion that we'll do is we'll ear notch him. All of our registered cattle have a lower right ear mark. We'll look in here before we put the ink, but as you can see right there, the F156 is in between the two ribs. I'll let that bleed just a little bit, and then we'll start to ink that. But that is the location and how you want to put that tattoo in the calf. And now we'll start the inking process. The things we also do, we carry a Novacin solution with us to where fight the spread of leukosis and just disinfect. After each animal we process, we'll disinfect that with a Novacin solution, and that helps with the spread of any leukosis carriers that might be on our tattoo gun. You can't quite see the number here, but I've started to get a blood flow coming. We'll just lay this tattoo ink in the calf's ear. Long ago, a fieldman, when he was young and still in another capacity, told me that you just can't work that ink in enough. My regular protocol in how I do this, I'll lay this in here and just gently rub that and just make a paste film over the numbers of the tattoo and just work it there like that. On the back side with my left hand, I'm slightly inverting the ear of the calf to push those tattoo holes open and work that paste in there. And that's enough right now. I'll flip this calf over, do the other ear, and then I'll let it continue to bleed out as I pack up my equipment, and then I'll come back for one more final double rub. But here again, you see the number on this, and it started to bleed out. But I'll just work my ink in there. Once again, inverting on the back side, opening up the holes of the tattoo to receive the ink. I'll put another little dab on there just to get a good paste. There we've got the holes covered. A film of paste is over the top. We've rubbed that good, and then now I'm going to start to pack up my equipment, let that bleed just a little bit more, and I'll come back one more time and finish up the process before I turn the calf loose. A lot of times when those calves start talking, as a lot of you know, mama gets pretty overprotective. We're having a good run today in cooperation on all sides, but now we're going to go back and make the final rub on the ear and seal it one more time, and then we'll turn the calf loose. A lot of the interns that work with me, I've showed how we tie these calves up. One of the things that's frustrating, if you're to tie one of these calves down along a creek or in a tree belt away from your pickup, and you come back and the calf's gone. But one of the things I do like to do after I've tied the calf up, flip him over where his free leg is on the top and where he doesn't have as much leverage to struggle and try to get loose. Hopefully I've made the tie secure enough to where he stays tied until I get back. But it's a little secret to maybe help you. Flipping him over as you work with him, and that keeps him tied and here for when you come back to him. But this is done well. It is about to stop bleeding, and we've got that rubbed in there well, and the paste is over the top of it. And like I said, done correctly, this will be here for life. And that just has got a film paste over the top of it. Here again, this hasn't quite bled out like they do sometimes, but you can see a little bit in there that it's continued to bleed. With this second rubbing, going there, and it's starting to stop bleeding, and just a little bit more follow-up, working that ink into those tattoo holes and numbers, and getting a good ink set in there. One of the problems, as you can see, you take a little bit of time to get this done right. It's with this calf, and he's identified for life. One of the things that is frustrating if you don't do this correctly, and here in 60 days when we'll bring these calves in to tag them with their number on their tag, and you can't read the tattoo and your efforts have gone for naught, well, it's just frustrating. Or if you tattoo this calf and then ship him somewhere and someone needs to read the tattoo at the new location and that tattoo's not legible or readable, it's frustrating for all the parties. So hopefully that helps show that a little bit better in what we do here at Gardiner Angus Ranch. Like I say, we get plenty of practice year-round with both a fall and a spring herd, but now with this earmark, the tattoo, this calf is identified. We know he's been processed by the earmark. We'll release him with his mother, and he'll be identified for the rest of his life.